Have you ever felt it? You know, that persistent nagging sensation of being trapped, maybe unfulfilled, stagnant even. It's almost like there's this deep inner voice inside you calling out for something more, right?
Yeah.
But it gets suppressed, muffled by, I don't know, daily responsibilities, all the excuses we make, and just that pervasive fear of the unknown.
Totally. That feeling really hit home for me when I read the foreword of the book we're looking at today. It says, many of us feel trapped, we aren't happy, we aren't fulfilled, and we aren't progressing, just like I was a few years ago.
Exactly. And it feels so widespread, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's this internal sense of despair at the thought of an unlived life, as the author Dan Coe puts it. It's this quiet agony that, well, frankly, too many people just accept as normal.
The default path.
Precisely, the default path that too many people accept and follow without question, often without even realizing they're on it. And that deep yearning for something different, it just gets drowned out by, the noise of everyday life and this illusion of certainty.
Huge problem.
It really is. And if you, listening right now, have felt that, you are definitely not alone.
Now, that's exactly why we're taking a deep dive today. We're getting into Dan Coe's book, The Art of Focus. And this isn't like just another self-help book that kind of skims the surface. It feels more like a map, really.
Yeah, a detailed map.
Guiding you towards a life with real autonomy, mental peace, pursuits that actually mean something, and, fulfilling relationships.
And the foreword makes a pretty bold promise, doesn't it?
It really does. It suggests the insights in here could save you years or decades to fully integrate through trial, error, and frustration. I mean, imagine that kind of acceleration in your life.
It's a big claim, but the foreword backs it up by saying this isn't about quick fixes. It's described as a synthesis of years of Dan's learnings, experiences, and reflections.
So depth.
Exactly. What's really striking is how it manages to be both incredibly deep philosophically, but also remarkably simple in its application. That's a rare thing.
Yeah, hitting that sweet spot is tough.
Totally. The person who wrote the foreword even admitted needing to read it multiple times for the lessons to really sink in. That says a lot, right?
It really does. It suggests it's something you engage with, not just consume.
Right. It demands interaction to unlock its wisdom.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit more. Let's talk about Dan Coe himself, because his journey, it seems really unconventional and kind of illuminates the whole philosophy here.
Yeah, his story is fascinating.
It started super early, right, age 12. The book says he was gifted with the specific programming that led to him questioning how the world worked.
Even then.
Even then. He wasn't just observing. He was trying to figure out how I could game the system, and maybe more importantly, how I could get miles ahead of everyone else with minimal, focused effort. That's pretty intense for a 12-year-old.
That innate curiosity, that drive to question everything, it really set him apart.
And that questioning mind quickly turned into, well, a rebellion against conventional wisdom.
Definitely. He realized pretty early on that institutionalized education wasn't going to save him. He saw his parents, his peers. They couldn't really justify why they followed the traditional path. They just did.
Just repeating what they'd heard.
Exactly. So that pushed him to take his education, his whole future, really, into his own hands. He got obsessed with self-education. First fitness, mastering everything he could find on his own.
Right.
Then he applied that same intensity to computer programming. He says he learned a whole college web dev curriculum in just 2 weeks.
2 weeks. How?
Not in a classroom. By hammering online courses and, crucially, building stuff immediately, applying it. It's a huge testament to self-directed focused learning, without all the institutional baggage.
That's incredible. It really shows you don't have to follow the standard script for learning.
Not at all.
And what I find compelling is that it wasn't like instant success.
Yeah.
He's open about it.
Oh, yeah, very open. He talks about a decade of failures, minor successes, feeling hopeless and lost, all while this nagging voice kept whispering.
It's possible. You don't have to end up like the rest.
Exactly. So his current success in the creator economy, it didn't come from money or connections or luck. He calls himself an average guy that came from a middle-class, single-income family.
Which makes it so relatable, right? It shows that this path, this focused self-creation, it's actually accessible. It's not just for a lucky few.
Absolutely. It makes the whole message feel much more grounded and achievable for anyone listening.
Okay, so something else fascinating from the foreword is this dynamic, this clash between different worldviews.
Right, the science versus, well, the woo-woo.
Yeah. The foreword author, with an engineering and cognitive science background, was initially super skeptical of Dan's more philosophical, spiritual stuff, saw it as seemingly woo-woo nonsense.
Which is understandable coming from that perspective. There was this subtle sense of intellectual superiority, maybe, believing the purely scientific, empirical way was just better, more valid.
Totally. We all do that, don't we? Dismiss things that don't fit our box.
We do. But then the foreword describes this major catalyst, a conversation with Dan and a mutual friend.
What happened?
The friend asked this killer question. How else could a recommendation be made if it wasn't proven by rigorous studies in the traditional scientific sense?
Ooh, that cuts deep.
It really does. And it led to this big realization. Both approaches, science and this more intuitive spiritual exploration, when you get down to it, they both align with the scientific method.
How so?
As a process of never-ending trial and error.
Yeah.
Experimenting, adjusting based on feedback, trying again, even if it looks like failure.
That's a huge takeaway. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. And it brings up a key question for you, the listener.
Yeah.
How often do you just shut down ideas that seem to clash with your beliefs, your identity, instead of approaching them with, like, radical open-mindedness?
Which seems to be a core theme in the book.
Absolutely. Challenging your own biases. It shows how different worldviews, even science and spirituality, can actually lead to similar goals and understanding. It's all about that process of trying, learning, refining.
Okay, so with all that context, the big question the book tackles is, why focus? Why is it so important?
Yeah, the core premise.
Dan defines it simply but profoundly. Focus is attention with intention. And he stresses the massive impact of what we choose to pay attention to, how we interpret that information, and crucially, why we're giving it our attention in the first place.
It's critical because our conscious processing power is tiny.
Incredibly tiny.
Yeah.
Like 10, 50 bits of information per second. That's it.
Think about that. It's a minuscule window onto reality.
So the quality of that attention, the intention behind it, it dictates everything.
It really does.
Yeah.
And while our conscious mind is juggling those few bits, our unconscious, it's processing 10, 50 million bits per second.
Whoa.
Yeah. All the automatic stuff, habits, reactions, breathing, walking, everything happening below the surface.
So the book argues
What?
that focus determines your whole life.
Pretty much. The depth, wholeness, and state of your focus will determine the entirety of your life. It impacts your enjoyment, your suffering, your progress, your success, everything.
So it's not about fixing symptoms, it's about the root cause.
Exactly. Attack the root cause by consciously directing your focus. Then everything else starts to fall into place. If you don't direct your attention, you might miss the crevices of reality, where the real solutions and opportunities lie.
To help us visualize this, he introduces a symbol, right? The foci.
Yeah, a simple but powerful visual. A dot surrounded by concentric circles.
And it has three main interpretations.
Right. The first is purpose, path, and priority. This is about bringing order to your mind.
How does it do that?
By setting your attention on something bigger than yourself, a meaningful goal, a vision. Then it helps you clarify the specific path or strategy to get there. And finally, it helps you prioritize the single most important problem to solve right now.
So it's a framework for visualizing the future, making decisions, even creating something specific.
Exactly. It structures your thinking.
Okay, what's the second interpretation?
The second one is about pushing your limits. It represents you, the known, and the unknown.
You, the known, the unknown.
Yeah.
Layers.
Kind of. The dot is you. The inner circle is the known, everything you already know, your experiences. The outer circle is the unknown, all that uncharted potential out there.
And the point is?
The point is to constantly push from the known into the unknown, to keep learning, exploring, growing. If you stay stuck in the known, life gets stagnant, boring, purposeless. It's an invitation to keep expanding.
Makes sense. And the third meaning?
The third is your perspective, ideal self, and the universe.
Right.
This highlights a key difference between successful people and those who struggle.
Which is?
The fundamental direction of their lives shaped by countless small daily decisions.
Right.
And the insight here is, when you zoom out, when you adopt a more holistic perspective, whether it's seeing the bigger picture like the universe or aligning with your highest ideal self, making those good decisions becomes almost effortless.
It stops being a struggle.
Exactly. It becomes an intuitive flow because your choices are aligned with that larger purpose.
So the foci is basically our guide for this deep dive.
Precisely. It's our compass to explore how to attack the root cause of your problems through focus and create order in what feels like a chaotic world. It's about intentionally building your personal evolution.
Okay, let's dive into part one. Find meaning, building the foundation. We start with the principles. These aren't just abstract ideas, right? They're the bedrock.
Absolutely foundational.
First up, content in consciousness. Okay, let's unpack this one. The book says everything is information or form that arises in consciousness, like water taking the shape of a cup. What does that mean practically?
It means recognizing that the structure and nature of the information filling your awareness shapes your entire experience. Think about routines, systems, teachings. They all provide temporary order against the background chaos.
So the information we let in shapes our reality.
Exactly. And this ties directly into the Buddhist idea of impermanence. Everything is in and out of formation. Nothing is static. Our thoughts, emotions, identity, even things that seem solid, they're all constantly changing, arising, and fading.
So if everything is just information flowing through awareness,
Then you gain incredible agency. You're not just passively receiving reality. You become the active editor of your reality.
wow. So feeling overwhelmed or stuck.
It's often a signal to examine the content, the information, the narratives, the beliefs you're allowing into your consciousness. It empowers you to actively shape your experience.
Powerful. Okay, next principle, radical open-mindedness. The book talks about that childlike wonder we're born with, exploring reality without bias.
Yeah, that natural curiosity.
But then it gets lost, right? As others projected their dogmatic worldview on them, and exploration gets discouraged.
It's a sad but common story of social conditioning. We internalize limits and beliefs without even realizing it.
And that limits us.
Massively. It prevents great discoveries, insights, and truths. We cling to what society, family, institutions tell us is true or possible.
The book says life is counterintuitive.
Exactly. The deepest truths are often hidden beneath what seems silly or illogical or, yes, woo-woo. Radical open-mindedness is the only way to explore those depths. Most people stay on the surface.
So it's about questioning everything, especially what feels comfortable or certain.
Precisely. Challenging your own assumptions is key.
Okay, then there's holistic synthesis. The author critiques the compartmentalized school system.
Right. Breaking reality into isolated subjects, chemistry here, literature there, neuroscience over there.
But reality isn't like that.
Not at all. As the book says, everything is connected.
So this principle calls for
It emphasizes the urgent need for polymaths, autodidacts, modern Renaissance men, people who can see the connections, unify consciousness by bridging these artificial gaps.
because compartmentalizing limits problem solving.
Severely. We need people who can connect the dots between different fields to create truly novel solutions. Imagine the innovation if we saw knowledge as one big interconnected continent, not separate islands.
Makes sense. Next, creativity versus productivity.
A really important one today.
The book says bluntly, humans are not robots. Our creativity is our edge.
Our defining characteristic.
Yet, too many people get bogged down with the pursuit of status to be more productive than their peers. It's a critique of just chasing efficiency.
It is. This principle pushes for a radical shift. Leverage mental efficiency, yes. Systemize repetitive tasks, definitely.
Yeah.
To free up your most precious resource time and mental energy for truly creative pursuits.
Because the greats didn't just do repetitive tasks.
Exactly. The greatest artists, thinkers, and scientists didn't change the world with busy work. They prioritized deep work, rest, expanding their minds, and tackling big, complex problems creatively.
Work smarter, more creatively, not just harder.
That's the core message. That's how you stay relevant.
Which leads us to failure and struggle. This is a counterintuitive take.
Very refreshing, I think.
Success cannot exist without failure. It just wouldn't make sense. It's not just a step, it's inevitable, indispensable.
Right. It's the path to earning your own worth.
So failure isn't something to avoid.
No. It's framed as a necessary experience from which you can toss an anchor and pull yourself toward a better future.
An anchor. I like that.
It's crucial, because without embracing it, the book warns you're near guaranteed to dislike where you end up. You'll be living someone else's life.
Because it's through the struggle, the falling and getting up.
But you build resilience, find your own path, discover what truly matters to you, not just what's expected. It's where real self-discovery happens.
Okay, then the idea of ego development. Not killing the ego, but developing it.
Yeah, it's a nuanced point, not destroying it, but developing it to the point of being at one with reality. transcending and including it.
What does that mean practically?
It means learning to use the ego as a sophisticated tool to navigate the world while staying grounded in the interconnectedness of reality. It's not your master, it's a tool.
So a developed ego can serve a higher purpose.
Exactly. Helping you interact effectively without being enslaved by its temporary ideas or identities. This connects directly to level of mind.
Which is synonymous with?
The openness of your perspective. To increase your level of mind, you must shed your attachment to expectations, concepts, and beliefs that cloud your perception.
So problems actually force us to expand our perspective.
They demand it. Every significant problem requires you to see things differently, to grow your consciousness.
And finally, under principles, tactical stress.
Sounds intense.
It is, but it's deliberate.
A conscious decision to break out of your familiar routine, putting yourself in a do-or-die situation to overcome fear and reach the next level.
It's about intentional growth, not recklessness. If your skill roughly matches the challenge, you're not jumping in totally blind. Sometimes you just need to rip the bandage off.
Calculated risk.
Exactly. A strategic leap that forces a big jump in awareness and skill. Stepping out of your comfort zone deliberately into a space where you must adapt.
Like taking on a tough project, having a hard conversation.
Or signing up for that marathon. Recognizing when fear is the only thing left holding you back and consciously pushing through it. It's self-disruption for self-improvement. Wow. Okay, what a foundation. Now, the 3 pillars. Deconstructing human behavior and purpose.
Yeah, getting into the core drivers.
Imagine being around people you truly admire. Successful entrepreneurs, inspiring artists, whatever. What makes them tick?
The book suggests it's their ability to focus on a meaningful goal, holding that as a distraction repellent, knowing exactly how to achieve it, and refocusing on the choice in front of you.
Sounds almost like a superpower.
It kind of does, but as the book says, we all know it's not that simple.
Right. If it were, we'd all be living our best lives effortlessly.
So the book introduces this universal pattern behind human behavior. 3 pillars.
What are they?
First, a desirable goal, something you really want. Second, a system or strategy to get there. And third, a compelling problem that pushes you to act.
Goal, system, problem.
Right. And the clarity you have on each of these determines if a goal is truly worth pursuing for you or if it's just a fleeting wish that'll lead nowhere.
Clarity is key.
Absolutely. Moving beyond vague hopes to concrete intention.
And there's a crucial warning here, isn't there?
A really stark one. If you don't know what you want, you will be told what you want and you will believe it.
Oof. That hits hard.
It highlights how societal conditioning, corporate ladders, religious dogma, status games can lead you down a path that wastes decades if you're not conscious.
It's not necessarily a conspiracy.
No, more like a natural byproduct. Mental enslavement starts at birth. Go to school, get grades, get a job, retire. It's a certain system that discourages real questioning.
So if your goals, systems, and problems are unconscious, imposed on you,
the consequences are huge. We're creatures of habit. Without conscious goals, we take the easy or expected path, leading to dissatisfaction.
and without conscious systems,
We just absorb the habits and beliefs around us. Reactive living. And without consciously choosing our problems and their purpose, we fall into victim mode, our attention manhandled by others' goals,
our beliefs get conditioned.
right into our habit-loving brains. They shape our thoughts, feelings, actions, compounding over time into a future self that might not be our own creation at all.
So how do you break free?
The book hammers this home. Direct experience is king. You have to actively experiment and learn for yourself to break those ingrained patterns.
Okay, now, here's where it gets really interesting. We're talking the universe with a capital U.
Yeah, this is a key distinction, not just the physical cosmos, the lowercase u universe.
So the capital U universe is...
Beyond the senses, not a thing, but a process, a verb, the universe of universes, the underlying reality, and it's relevant to our daily lives.
How so? Is it religious?
Not about specific doctrine, it's about going deeper than shallow self-help. True philosophy asks, how do you live the best life?
And the answer involves the universe.
Yes, by adopting the universe's perspective, observing its fundamental patterns and applying those insights practically, seeing the biggest picture to inform your smallest actions, like understanding physics to navigate everyday events.
How do we grasp this vastness? The book mentions units of mind and interconnectedness.
Right. A unit of mind is anything you can focus on a car, its tire, a bolt on the tire.
Okay.
And the key is each unit is both a whole and part. A car is a whole, but part of a transport system. A human is a whole, but part of a purpose, a community, the universe.
And these units evolve.
Through conflict, often. Think evolution ape to human. Or, personally, gaining clarity after feeling lost. It's because everything is interconnected in this infinite web.
Hand to arm, cup to cupboard.
Exactly. All connected from the concrete bolt to the immaterial fabric of thought. Seeing these connections, these layers, is understanding deeply. Perceiving the whole symphony.
And within this web, there's a key pattern: division and reunion.
Yes, the engine that runs the relative world. The book uses the water cycle metaphor: ocean to clouds, reunion to rain, division to puddles, reunion back to the ocean, constant cycling.
Division, reunion.
And this mirrors the fantastical song of seasons and the high highs and low lows of our own lives.
We yearn for summer and winter, miss winter and summer.
Exactly. We tend to resist the necessary low that will lead into an inevitable and impermanent high. Understanding these cycles helps us embrace change, suffering, loss as natural parts of the journey, not fight them, flow with it.
This pattern extends to stories as meaning makers.
Absolutely. Every sentence has a purpose. Every chapter has a purpose. Every book has a purpose. Stories, external and internal, help us construct meaning. Chapters often represent problems to solve.
But there's a warning here.
Yes, trying to force paragraphs of other stories into our book without a shared purpose causes conflict, dissonance, because the values, the beliefs, they just don't fit your narrative.
And all understanding is metaphorical.
Meaning, deep lessons come from seeing beyond the literal, understanding the underlying structure, the archetypes, the purpose. Our minds are constantly shaped by these stories, creating an intangible communication with the external world.
Which brings us to At One Not War, embracing struggle.
A foundational concept.
Struggle is a universal principle. It is silly to think that it isn't supposed to be a part of your life. We expect ease, but reality is different.
We fight discomfort, constantly shivering when cold, annoyed by delays. The body reacts for physical survival, but the mind
doesn't have to react the same way.
Right. If you consciously choose to be with it, flow with it, you realize discomfort is a part of the human experience. Often your thoughts are the real culprit, not the situation.
Especially when we're defending an identity.
Exactly. Trying to survive an identity that feels threatened causes immense pain. But by integrating our identity, seeing it as temporary, and using struggle as feedback, we flip the script. Struggle becomes fuel for growth, not just suffering.
This idea of identity leads into self and other. Identity is conditioned strings.
Yeah, this unpacks it further.
2 meta questions define us. Who am I? Intrinsic. And what is my purpose? Extrinsic.
And direct experience weaves these strings, a metaphorical web of expectations, beliefs, our sense of self.
These strings are our conditioning, from fickle yarn to steel wire.
Exactly. The stronger the attachment to an idea, belief, identity, the more high-voltage electric shock you feel when it's challenged.
Like religious ideology becoming who you think you are.
Yeah.
Or fierce political arguments.
Or even a kid defending their room's boundary. It's defending a mental construct tied to self. The book nails it. The concept of self is a puppet master to those that do not realize this. It dictates our suffering if unexamined.
Which leads to survival systems. Beyond the physical, humans survive conceptually too.
Significantly. We survive non-genetic information, like language, social and cultural constructs. Our shared reality, our biases, they're vital.
So our self is also our psychic body, defending against psychic threats.
Ideas that contradict our worldview undermine our identity. The book uses the powerful example of Ben Gunn, the jailhouse lawyer.
What happened to him?
Upon release, he experienced swift conceptual death. His entire identity, status, purpose was tied to prison. Freedom meant losing himself. It shows how attached we get to status identities.
And beyond defense, there's conceptual reproduction.
The drive to spread ideas, beliefs. An author writing a book isn't just sharing info, it's impregnating the minds of others with their ideas so they can live on.
So the real game is,
how do we make survival the most meaningful? How do we ensure the ideas we spread, our conceptual offspring, contribute positively?
That brings us to harmonic oscillation, finding purpose in problems. Starts with a punch. You feel bad because your future self is watching, and they don't like what they see.
Yeah, direct. Likens the mind to an overweight sculpture waiting to be chiseled down. Discomfort is a signal of misalignment.
Explain harmonic oscillation.
Like flicking a door stopper, it vibrates, then returns to calm. Or a plucked guitar string. A force displaces it, but it naturally returns to equilibrium.
And how does this relate to life problems?
One big problem, lack of money. Poor health can spread chaos everywhere, like ripples. affecting health, relationships, work.
The key is
To hunt for a reason, a why, for solving that problem. A why so compelling it makes action feel seamless. This why creates purpose until the next reveals itself, turning problems into engines for growth.
choosing the problems that create the most positive oscillation.
Exactly. And that's where strategy comes in. A clear plan, hierarchy of goals, that's the structured information, bringing order to mental chaos. Using others' lives, good or bad, as fuel to clarify your direction. It's the blueprint for chiseling that sculpture.
Okay, shifting gears into part 2. Reinvent yourself playing your own game.
Right, taking control.
The book uses the metaphor of World of Warcraft as a microcosm of life. Choosing your race, cultural programming, and class, opportunity skills, then the tutorial phase.
It perfectly shows how society conditions us. We learn and learn and learn from parents, schools, creating a social fabric that relies solely on itself to make sense.
And the core problem is
A lack of questioning. We adopt a path like a game character, often without asking if it's right for us. Societal systems are constructs, tools we mistakenly treat as masters.
and problems never fully disappear.
No, you just get better at solving them. It's continuous evolution.
So how do we craft our own game? It involves rules.
Like any game, rules are conditions, limits, or distinctions that narrow attention. When fully immersed within those rules, you hit that addictively enjoyable state of mind flow.
So rules aren't bad.
From a universal view, there are limits on infinity, creating order from chaos. No rules, just formlessness.
The book contrasts boredom and anxiety here.
Right. Boredom is self-centeredness, focus breaks, new desires pop up. Anxiety is self-consciousness, constant comparison. Both signal a dysfunctional game, like being bored watching a sport you don't understand, or anxious comparing your progress unfairly.
It all comes back to perspective then, adopting the director's vantage point.
Exactly. Consciously controlling how you interpret things, filtering noise, focusing on the signal of importance. This stops you being purely reactionary.
So even an upsetting comment,
It could be seen as the catalyst to you taking control. It's a massive shift in how you engage with reality. Seeing the purpose in everything, even challenges, using it all as feedback.
which leads perfectly into the lens, expanding your perspective. You are a perspective vessel in a subjective reality.
Your current self is forged by the ideologies, dogma, and forms that you identify with as static. You are your perspectives.
The book talks about clear conscious versus blurred, subconscious, unconscious focus.
Yeah. When consciously focused on a clear vision, distractions fade. They don't register.
But if your perspective is limited by self-concept, negative emotions,
Then your field of awareness cannot see the situation for what it is. You literally miss opportunities because your mental lens is clouded or too narrow.
so the practical advice is collecting lenses for your camera.
Studying different perspectives, spirituality, atheism, veganism, freelancing, each is a lens that expands your mind beyond one limiting worldview.
But don't get attached to the tactics.
Learn the overarching principles. Let experience show your way. Over time, you see the universal patterns, the fundamentals, principles, levers that drive progress everywhere. You see the machinery.
Which is why a meaningful hierarchy of goals acts as lens itself.
Definitely. It lets you register potential opportunities others miss. Without it, you only see shallow chances for status or quick fixes, easily distracted. Your goals filter reality. And driving all this requires a passion for the mind itself.
For thinking, learning, understanding. That passion fuels you through the mental roads that compose reality. Curiosity over frustration.
Think about life potential. 125 billion bits of info you can process. Without strategic focus, you fall into modern mental enslavement, potential decided by others. Nobody wants to wake up wondering where the time or information went.
The tragedy of an unfocused life.
So the only option, forge your own path.
Through conscious goals, clarity via self-education and experimentation, and progressive overload.
Continuously increasing the challenge as you grow, never stagnating.
This tackles that endless negative oscillation of modern work. Looking forward to the weekend, Sunday dread.
Because the challenge stopped increasing. Boredom, anxiety set in. The solution, agitation, clarity, and action.
The path of mastery is cyclical. increasing skill with harder challenges.
Yes, and crucially, not quitting at plateaus. The pleasure seeker chases endless highs and crashes. The master leans into the universal story, embraces struggle, knowing enjoyment comes from the process itself.
How do you actually fall in love with the process?
By refocusing on the depth and detail of the present moment, the writer smelling coffee, the chef feeling the water.
Immersion.
This goalless journey, being present paradoxically, is directed by self-generated goals. It's like the runner's high. Overcoming mental battles makes the tough activity enjoyable through a self-discovered philosophy of embracing the effort, finding joy in the doing.
Transforming work into play.
Exactly. Engaged, fulfilling pursuit.
Okay, part 3. Create your ideal future, the path of the builder. Starting with you are the infinite project.
A core truth.
The book shows how solving a basic money problem, like getting a job, lowers
It
stress
frees up energy.
to pursue a more meaningful problem, like the Secretary for the Military-Industrial Complex, using that stability to build a creative income source that serves a higher purpose.
It's leveraging one solution to unlock the next, more significant pursuit.
And this touches on the conscious nobility trap.
Right. Acknowledging that sometimes ethically complex actions might seem necessary, but emphasizing doing so consciously, integrated, not unconsciously. Everyone has a shadow.
So integrate, don't deny.
Yes. Then set big, deconstructed goals in health, wealth, relationships, happiness. These goals are the brushstrokes painting your future self.
And it all starts with curiosity.
Which turns into sustainable drive as you dive deeper into the iceberg of our choosing.
The iceberg example. A phone isn't just a phone.
No, it connects to identity, global manufacturing, marketing, even the thought behind its creation, shows the interconnectedness and infinite depth available everywhere.
This depth seems crucial for the future of work and education.
Especially now. The book tackles AI and automation head-on. Labor, low-skill jobs disappearing, survival at stake. Even creative and programming jobs are being impacted.
And formal education.
Has its place, but people are losing trust in its ability to secure their future. There's often a gap between years of study and actual job needs. Self-education becomes necessary after graduating.
Dan Koh's programming journey is a prime example.
Shows the shift to individuality, decentralization, accessible information. Traditional models are less relevant.
This is where specific knowledge comes in.
Knowledge not taught in schools, the source of wealth outside jobs. The online education boom since 2020 proves it. Individual creators with real-world experience sharing cutting-edge info.
The book envisions creator in community-based schools.
Evolving constantly, students become teachers, a holistic, self-correcting system fueled by interest, not just money or old curricula, active knowledge creation.
This leads to career creation, the new entrepreneurship.
Stated bluntly, knowledge not found in schools is the source of money not found in employment. The internet has democratized wealth generation.
Dan's childhood obsession, observing people, questioning the conditioned lens, led him to the creator economy.
Allowed him to take control of his mental, physical, and financial health. Architect of his own destiny.
And entrepreneurship is redefined, not just huge companies.
No, it's leveraging your stack of skills, unique story, and finite focus to create a life of meaning. It's modern-day survival. Eventually, work will not be work, it will be play, because it's aligned.
But you need a valuable message and medium.
A message that's relatable, understandable, or actionable, and critically. You have to learn how to capture attention if you want anything from someone else. Attention is currency.
Value is perception, influenced by worldview.
Which is why marketing and sales are evergreen skills. Not manipulation, but ethical influence. Making people aware of their problems and presenting a solution. The best messages offer transformation, like universal stories.
Tailoring the message to the audience hierarchy. Beginner, intermediate, advanced.
Guiding them through their goals. And remember, discipline equals freedom in life. Distribution equals freedom in business. Build that skill stack, email, design, social media, copy to distribute your message effectively.
This focus on action leads to become a builder, solving problems and creating solutions.
Shifting from hoarding theory to direct experience, becoming a builder.
Dan's method is key here. Outline project, get inspiration, seek specific knowledge, apply immediately, embrace struggle.
For quick wins and momentum, hands-on, iterative. Forces rapid learning and adaptation that theory can't provide. Learning by doing, accelerated.
This mindset fuels his 4-hour workday philosophy. Seems crazy.
He says, I was loosely identified as someone who would work less yet achieve more. So my actions naturally followed to survive that identity. He willed it by setting anything over 4 hours as a problem. This primed his mind to find solutions to meet that constraint. It fights psychic entropy, the mind's drift to disorder, requires mental housekeeping, conscious system.
Why 4 hours?
Cognitive limits. 3 to 5 hours is the sweet spot for mental energy expenditure. Focus fatigues. Maximize quality output in peak hours, not just clock time. Master-level efficiency.
This connects to project to product, from personal solution to public value. Everyone is an entrepreneur.
Some just choose to get paid for the problems they solve in their personal life. Problems are best solved through personal projects, self-experimentation.
Dan's journey illustrates this. Photography to web design.
Constantly solving problems. Landing clients, needing multiple skills, manual acquisition. Forced him to learn marketing, sales, writing more specific knowledge than college.
The key insight was identifying what the problem solved, not just the skill.
Exactly. Shifted him from web designer to marketing consultant. Attracted clients because he'd already solved their problems for himself.
Then 3 years of building and trashing products led to his current success.
A multi-million follower distribution network and a hyper-profitable product stack, sustaining his creative work, like this book.
2 lessons came from that.
1. There is always a better problem to solve. Don't settle for inefficient struggle. 2. My products started as projects in my life, like his productivity system.
So entrepreneurship is the only logical option for long-term thinkers.
Because it's an infinite bucket of challenges, constant growth. And today, the internet demands you display your value in public. Your work is your resume.
The 3 modalities for distributing value. Done for you, done with you, do it yourself.
Services, consulting, coaching, tutoring, or products. Courses, books, tools aiming for passive income. And the vital one-person business idea.
If you can't turn your interests into income, you don't have the skill to start a business.
That needs way more resources. Solve your own problems first. That's the most profitable and meaningful route. Then package those solutions.
This flows into helping others, the path to collective evolution, the graph of your life, highs, achievements, and lows, problems.
And the empowering insight. You do not have to wait until you reach your ideal future to help someone that is a few steps behind you.
Like the tennis pro teaching beginners.
They don't have to be world #1. They have a system refined through their own struggles. Your struggles make your story relatable, your solutions authentic. Helping others navigate problems you've solved solidifies your learning and contributes to collective progress.
A chain reaction of growth.
Exactly.
Finally, reproduction through spirit, the ultimate impact. This intrinsic drive for conceptual reproduction.
Spreading ideas that create positive change. It feels good to spread ideas, a deep satisfaction.
And clarity is crucial. If you do not have the idea to improve, it will be difficult to reach the next stage.
Ideas are the currency of evolution. Cost of ideas is mental development, deep engagement. Spread of ideas is mental reproduction, multiplying impact. This creates mental mastery.
So challenging your own ideas becomes a cornerstone habit.
Reading, watching, listening critically, and the internet's amplified impact is huge. Before, maybe impacting thousands. Now, you are 2 network layers away from impacting 1 billion people, for good or evil. Massive responsibility.
Almost terrifying.
Sobering. The fate of humanity is not guaranteed. Evolution depends on individuals developing an autonomous sense of self, generating their own rules, contributing meaningfully.
Choosing the chaos you allow into your life. Pursuing something big, meaty, and terrifying at the edge of the known.
Where new potentials outweigh the pleasure of instant gratification. Where real growth happens.
The optimal balance isn't absolute order or chaos,
but a middle path where you are engaged in meaningful challenges. The flow state, where flow of information is maximized, leading to insights, ideas laid as bricks for others.
The book mentions Dan's inspirations, Wilbur, Naval, Watts, DeMello.
Examples of holistic synthesizers needed for the future, integrating diverse perspectives.
It all comes back to the universe's patterns, creation, destruction, give, take, held by spirit.
And aligning decisions with your ideal self through that hierarchy of goals. That's the path to meaning, fulfillment, impact.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive into the art of focus. We've really gone from that universal feeling of being trapped.
That silent despair.
To understanding focus, attention with intention, as the fundamental solution. Dan Koh's map gives you, the listener, a blueprint.
A blueprint to find meaning, reinvent yourself, create your future by leveraging your attention.
We've hit the vital role of attention, the necessity of radical open-mindedness, embracing failure and struggle.
The constant evolution of your level of mind, defining your why, designing your own game, your infinite project. You are that project. It's continuous problem solving and self-creation.
So let's distill some actionable insights, practical steps for you right now.
Okay.
First, question the default path. Really question it, don't just accept it.
Crucial first step.
Second, commit to self-education and direct experience over passive consumption. Be the driver.
Learn by doing.
Third, find your personal, intrinsic why for tackling challenges. What truly fuels you?
That core motivation.
Fourth, build a versatile skill stack, serving your unique vision.
The tools for your journey.
Fifth, start by solving problems in your own life. They often become your most valuable offerings.
Turn projects into products.
And finally, consider those three modalities for sharing value. Done for you, done with you, or do it yourself.
Find the right fit for you and your audience.
The lasting value here, it feels like it's about guiding you towards a process rather than an outcome.
It's absolutely a journey where suffering decreases because you understand its role and you find real meaning, money, and impact through conscious creation. It's about maximizing your human experience.
So let's bring it back one last time to the Foci symbol. That meaning, you, the known and the unknown, the dot, the circles. What does this all mean for you listening right now?
Well, the book boldly states, the difference between you and them is this book. You have this awareness now, this expanded perspective. So the real question is, what first step into the unknown are you ready to take? How can your journey, fueled by conscious progress and sharing what you learn, contribute to the evolution of the collective? That right there is the core purpose of a life lived with focus.